Hey everyone, welcome to the Daily Self-Publishing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Sutton. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Lauren Clemett. Lauren, is that how you say your name? I didn't ask you.
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Lauren Clemett. Okay, well, let's do that the third time. Why not? Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Self-Publishing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Sutton, and today I'm with Lauren Clemett. She is a 5-time best-selling author and International Stevie Award winner, neurobranding expert. She used her dyslexia and disability as a great asset. She's helped others understand how the brain sees brands. She's over 30 years of experience in brand management. In 2017, she was awarded with an International Women in Business Entrepreneur of the Year at the prestigious Stevie Awards in New York. We're going to be talking about one of her multiple books. Lauren, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. That introduction makes me feel very old, so I might have to change that in the future.
Oh my God. I could have said 10 years instead of 30, but it wouldn't have been the
truth. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I say this sometimes, because I'm a physical therapist, is what I've been trained in before I started doing books and podcasting and everything else. And, I said this just yesterday, I spend my best moments with old people. Not that you're old, but that's kind of how it is.
Oh, no, some days I definitely feel old. So, yeah, I agree with you. And it's interesting, isn't it? I love the fact that your background is in physically dealing with people, because I guess the reason why I say, I've been in this industry for 30 years is I used to work with branding before the internet. And I know there's a lot of people on the planet who can't imagine a world before the internet, but human beings still behave the same way that they did before the internet was around. We still buy the same way. We still do the same things. So that, the internet isn't the be all and end all. We need to understand the physiological side of being a human as well. So it's so cool that that's your background as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you 100%. I was just the other day, I was telling my kids something, and my daughter, or my son, he's 7, he loves to say, ask Siri, on their iPhone. And I'm like, you know what, kids, we didn't have Siri when I was growing up. We had to go find the encyclopedia that somebody sold to our parents on the doorstep one day.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've now got, I think someone the other day called it digital dementia. So we don't even remember telephone numbers anymore. Remember, we used to know like 4 or 5 off by heart telephone numbers. Not anymore. We don't need to do that. So because Siri will tell us whatever we need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy, and in ways I'm happy that that's happened, but in other ways I'm sad because, like I said, we don't know phone numbers, and it's funny. My wife will say something, I'll say, "Oh yeah, I remember that girl. I went to high school with her, and her phone number was blah 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 blah." And she's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "Because we used to memorize things, Now we don't." And I think, there's all kinds of neuroscientists and things that we can study and say, is that actually detrimental to health? But we're not going to talk about that today because we'll be we got off on a tangent. But hey, listen, I'm super excited to talk to you. Talk about why you started writing books in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So my story is quite interesting because when I was a kid, I was about 8 years old, and I still remember to this day, my school teacher, he was also the head principal of the school, because I was in a little country town school in New Zealand. I think there were only about 200 children at the school. It was really tiny, and he was the headmaster. He was also the English teacher. And I remember him coming to my desk and crouching down next to me and saying, "Look, you're really not getting this reading and writing stuff. You're not doing what the other kids are doing. And I think you've got word blindness," which of course is dyslexia. So, and it sounds like a horrible thing for a teacher to say to a kid, you've got word blindness, there's something wrong with you, and that you'll never read or write like the other children do. But he knew me really well. He knew anything you told Lauren she couldn't do, I was going to damn well prove you wrong. I was going to go out there and do it, right? Like a red rag to a bull. So he encouraged me to read. He found all sorts of, I fell in love with the C.S. Lewis Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe series. And I've actually still got the school report typed up on an old typewriter, well before the internet, including Tipex and or white out with the mistakes and things like that, where he said, I threw myself into this. I was reading 10 to 12 books a month. I was taking home a little book of words for people to read out that I could spell back to them. So basically I was getting the grips with my dyslexia, and I was trying to figure out how I could get around that. And I fell in love with books. So writing books to me, and it's interesting that I actually wrote, as a dyslexic person, I wrote my own books, typed them up, and I set aside time every day, and I did them. The first draft of my book that I got back when I got a published copy from Amazon the first time, I think I ordered like 7 printed copies just to see what they looked like. There was a spelling error on the first page. So that's how bad it was, you know.
Right.
But I think he just really instilled in me this love of taking people somewhere on a journey with a book that could teach them something that by the end of that book, they go, wow, I've just been enlightened. I've just been taken on a journey and I now know more about myself or about my world, or I've learned something. And that's the power of books, really, which was amazing. And at the end of his school report, he wrote, if we had a class of Laurens, there's no end of where we could get to. So that's a really cool thing that he, you know, I've still got that somewhere in my office. So that's really cool.
I love that. I love that. You know, part of my story is someone told me I sounded ignorant when I was about 19. And, you know, I was on the path to be a physical therapist and I have a doctorate in that. And so I thought, wow, like she said, nobody's ever going to listen to you. And so, you know, on one end, when people say things, it can tank you. And then on the other end, like what your teacher said to you, that was pure, like he was trying to motivate you and explain things. Hey, this is why you're not getting it. But I love that you use that. It's really your superpower now, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that dyslexia and that ability to remember the shape of words, which is how I spell. Now I've learned there's actually a science around that to do with branding. And I got into graphic design and I've worked for some world leading advertising agencies like Saatchi's and Ogilvy's. And I've had my own agency and I've written those books. It's all come from the dyslexia and the ability to remember what brands look like and to see what's going on. So it's been awesome, Jeremy. What a journey.
Yeah, I love it. So you started writing books, and did they just take off and become, you know, international bestsellers?
Overnight. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it was so easy. Yeah. No, it's interesting, actually. I met up with a business mentor probably close to 10 years ago now, and he was talking about using a book to leverage your brand. And I was into personal branding. I just launched my first consultancy when I moved to Australia, and I was trying to figure out how I could grow my own impact and create more influence and be known as an expert in my area. I just learned about neurobranding. I was just getting into it. I was creating my own programs. And I was starting to launch a business. And I said to him, can I leverage this book to help other people leverage their brands? And he said, absolutely. So that really fired me up. And I signed up on the spot into his self-publishing program. And I basically then said, right, I'll follow your program. And I committed fully to it. And every day I blocked out of my diary from 7 a.m. till 11 a.m. No one could get hold of me for 3 months. And I wrote 4 books in that 3-month period. And I planned it all out. I worked out how my book was going to be part of my platform, how it was going to be part of the way that I had a unique process, and how I could explain neurobranding and how I could use it as a tool as a consultant and a speaker. And then, I combined all those books together and launched them individually, first of all, on Amazon. And again, his course taught me about how to self-publish on Amazon. There's loads of those programs out there. But the thing it didn't teach me, which is something I've learned myself, was the writing of the book, the creation of the book is nowhere near as hard as the marketing of the book.
Yes.
And you've got both of those things. And so many people put it off and, I'm not ready, or I don't know what to write about, or, the writing is going to be hard. If you've written your book already in your head, you're already halfway there. It's the marketing that takes the longest time. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the second person today to tell me that on my other podcast episode I did this morning. And it's the absolute truth. And I tell people that all the time. If you think the work is over when you're done with the book, then don't write it, because you're not going to do anything with it.
No, it'll sit on the shelf, or worse, you'll go and buy, 2,000 copies and they'll sit in boxes in the garage, but your mum will buy a couple of copies. Yeah, that'll be it.
Oh no, my goodness. I hate to think that I wrote a book just for my mom to read the copies.
But it's a good point though, Jeremy, because that's the first step, isn't it? And it always, to me, we now help people with their book marketing, but more importantly, the first question I ask when somebody says, I want to write a book, is, okay, number one, what's the purpose of your book? So is it to leverage you as a speaker? Is it to grow your business? Is it a business card on steroids? Is it to run a program? Is it coaching? Is it to open some doors or to win contracts? What's the purpose of the book? And the second question, which comes back to, is it just your mum? Who's it for? Who do you want to read this book? Because you need to put your ideal reader right at the center. So I know it always irks me when somebody says, I just want to write a book about my life because my life's been so interesting. To you and your mum, maybe. But who do you want to read it? Yeah. It's so much more important than what the story's about and what the book's about.
Yeah, for everybody listening to my book boss audience out there, guys, listen, I hope you go back, just hit the 15-second back button on the iPhone or whatever you're listening to, and listen to that again, because your life is interesting to you and your mom and probably some other people, if you're Rudy and you wanted to play at Notre Dame and you were 5'4". But I mean, that's kind of a harsh thing to say, Lauren, but it's absolutely the truth. Absolutely. Yep. So
yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, unless you're a celebrity who's writing, or a high level politician or someone who's royalty or whatever, yeah, you've got a certain amount of interest in the marketplace already. If you just as an entrepreneur or a business owner want to create an impact, want to create an influence, want to change the world, want to get more clients, want to grow your business, all those sorts of things, yes, you can weave your story into your business book. Absolutely. And mine, certainly, the start of every segment of my books has a little bit of insight into my life. And people want to know that. They want to know who the author is. They want to understand your journey, your challenges. They want to really get to know you as an author and feel like they can relate to you. But you need to teach them something. You need to give them some action steps, some outtakes, some aha moments that they just are mind blown and go, I am so glad I bought this book. Because the best form of marketing for any author, and in fact, anyone in business, is word of mouth, isn't it? Yeah. It's getting other people to refer you. So there's 3 reasons why word of mouth is really good. Number 1, it's free. And there's nothing like free marketing, guys. It's absolutely brilliant. Number 2, it's third-party endorsement. It's not you telling people how good you are. It's somebody who's read your book saying, you've got to read this book. You've got to book this person. You've got to go to their events, or you've got to have them as your mentor, whatever it is that you want them to do. And number 3, it is that ripple effect. It's someone hands your book to someone who hands it to someone who hands it to someone, and before you know it, you've got clients coming at your business that you don't even know they exist. And it's because somebody gave them a copy of your book or somebody told them to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I hope y'all are writing notes because I'm burning up my pen over here as Lauren's talking. Gosh, I love that. It is a ripple effect. And that's one of the things that your book can do. A podcast can do that. A lot of things, a YouTube channel. But a book puts you above a podcast and a YouTube channel because it just does. I mean, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's interesting, isn't it? I go back to what I was saying at the start. I, worked in an era before the internet. And if you wanted to get out there, you had to pay. You had to pay to be on TV. You had to get onto radio and pay for advertising. There was a certain amount of work and ethic that had to be put into what you're doing, a strategy and a plan. Nowadays, anyone can start a podcast. Anyone can open a website, start a ClickFunnels, all that sort of stuff. There seems to be this credibility around writing a book because there's some effort that goes into that. It takes time and effort to create a book, and it does. It's a hard slog. You've got to get it done. You've got to get it edited. You've got to get it published. You've got to promote it. And we all know that the books that do really, really well are the ones that have got reviews and social evidence. They've got social proof that people like them, they read them. I mean, I've got people who've sent me photographs of my book all highlighted and the pages turned over. And that's exactly what my book's a guidebook. I want people to write in it and to use it, So when they send me back photographs, and in fact, I'm just updating my book with a warning inside the front cover that says, do not read this book at night. Because I've had people, Jeremy, come back to me saying, it is 2 a.m. and I am still awake and I am still making notes because I'm reading your book. You should be telling people not to read it at night. So it all is about what do you want the impact your book to have? How do you want it to be used and abused? How do you want it to be, become this guiding light or the shining light in the marketplace? And it is totally about planning that out. rather than just letting it happen and going, oh, you know, maybe I'll write a book and maybe it'll have this. Plan it out. And I guess that's probably the first step I take people through, Jeremy, is like, let's mind map your book. You know, what's the major topic and what are all the segments? What are the parts to this? And yes, you need to share a bit of your story here because that's where it makes sense, because you're leading into a life lesson or a challenge or, you know, something that you've got to share with people that relates directly to what you've done. But where do you then drop in the action steps, you know, the learnings, the examples, the case studies? Where do you put those things in? So map it out first.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You know, that's actually like step 3 in my method, or, you know, what I teach people, because, and you already said it, what is the purpose for your book? So really, what's the topic going to be, and what purpose does it serve? And then who is it for? That's my second thing. Who's your audience? You know, because I really work with healthcare providers mostly. You know, frameworks work with everybody. Writing a book. But if you don't know what it's for and who it's for, then there's no sense in even messing with it, because a book should give a transformation.
Absolutely. And the last thing you want to do is spend so much time and effort creating this book and then it goes nowhere. You know, like you say, and it's funny you mentioned this right at the start. You know, it's really hard when you're trying to be everything to everyone, or that saying from New Zealand, you know, you can't help every Mary in the dairy. If you've got a book that's got no plan and no strategy, and it doesn't know who its reader is, it's going to be really hard to market it. It's just going to be, you end up doing what I call WOFTAM, Jeremy, WOFTAM, a waste of flipping time and money, right? That's exactly what it is. So WOFTAM marketing is huge amounts of time and money going down the drain because you're not being seen. No one gives you any credibility. Your book's not respected. You're not sure how to market it. And it just takes so much longer. And with books, I mean, I always say with personal branding, it takes about 3 years to grow a personal brand, to the point where people want you to speak, they want to interview you, you know, you're getting referrals, that word of mouth marketing's working, just it socks off for you. So yeah, it takes about 3 years to do that. So if you are thinking, oh, I'll write a book when I'm ready, the best time to write a book is yesterday. You know, get it done now, map it out, work out who your audience is, work out what the purpose of the book is, get it written, because it's going to take you probably, you know, a couple of months, if not a year, to get it published and up there. And then you're going to need the next 2 years of marketing it to really get it out there and make it work for you.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, I love what you said about it takes about 3 years to build that brand, because I'm thinking back to when I started in the online world. You know, you started doing Facebook and social media, and then this is my 4th podcast that I've had, and I finally settled, like, I love what this is. But, you know, it really took a few years before people started asking me to speak. First it was, you know, healthcare events, and now I'm, you know, speaking at some author events and things like that. But it doesn't happen overnight. And you can't just say, you know, you can't just say, you know, this is my first book, Neck Pain Solutions. I didn't plan this, but it just happens to be sitting here, and it's a neck pain book. Me and another physical therapist, Mark Green. But like, before I wrote that book, I already started to have a following in healthcare. And so it just, I agree with you 100%. You have to have a following. And that's what I've told people before. And they say, well, Jeremy, nobody's buying my book. And I'm, well, where do you have it? And they're like, well, it's on my website. Well, who's looking at your website? You know, like you said, Lauren, you can't just put the book there and sell it. You have to market.
Absolutely. Yeah. I work with a ghostwriter actually based in Florida in the States, amazing dude. And he's written hundreds of books with people. And we talked about it the other day. There's a whole methodology to becoming a bestseller. So there's a bestseller on Amazon, which there's a whole process you can do. As we all know, it's relatively easy, but there are literally billions of books on Amazon. So to say I'm a bestseller on Amazon is okay, but you need to sustain your number 1 ranking on there. It's not just I'm number 1 for 1 hour in category number 560. You know, if you really want to be respected, you need to be on there with some great reviews. But to become a New York Times best-selling author, you need a database of about 60,000 people. Now, that sounds like an unachievable goal for most people, but if you break it down, if you've got a database of about 20,000 people, and then your publisher has a database of about 20,000 people, and then the person you get to write the foreword for your book has a database of about 20,000 people, there's your 60,000. Yeah. So, you know, it's all about, again, comes back to you, as you say, Jeremy, what's the purpose of my book, who it's for, how am I going to launch this thing? How am I going to market it? How am I going to create this impact and influence as an author? And remember, it took me 4 years to figure out my personal brand, 4 years. So longer than most people. So, because I've got the luxury of standing on the outside and looking in, when you're very close to it. And this is why you need to use people like Jeremy. You need to find mentors and coaches to help this, because doing it yourself just will take so much longer. So it's really important that you actually get the help you need with an editor or a publisher, anyone. Go and find the help to get it done. Otherwise, it'll just take you far too long.
Absolutely. One of the greatest things I've ever done in my life is invest in coaches and mentors. Something I've always been one of these guys. Like in college, I didn't join a fraternity because I told people I'm not paying to have friends. Like, that's just not me. And then later in life, my wife made fun of me because I said that forever. And then I paid to join this group of physical therapists. Now it's like over 700 healthcare providers, but it has connected me to the world. Yeah. I wouldn't have this podcast without it. It's absolutely the greatest. It was only, I don't know, $1,000. I bought it. Like, I remember we were sitting on the couch, my wife and I, at 11 p.m. And I was like, I'm going to buy this. You okay? And she's like, oh, it's a lot of money. And I was like, I'm buying it. And like, that was the greatest $1,000 I've ever spent in my life.
Yeah. The payback's enormous, isn't it? When you do that, just really fantastic.
It is. And it's led to the spending of about $30,000 to $50,000 since then, but it's all coming back. And so it's phenomenal. I love that you said that. I talked to one of my friends, mentors today, and he said, we just bought this course, and he was like, did you buy that? Have you done the course? I was like, no. He said, why'd you buy it? I said, because they're going to set this thing up for me for free, and it was worth that. Or not for free, because I bought it. He's like, absolutely. You don't want to watch any videos. You just want the transformation or the outcome.
Yeah, definitely. I was just talking about this today with one of my clients, and I said, it's all about how committed you are. And I said, it's that example, if you're making breakfast, the chicken's involved, but the pig's committed, so are you a pig or a chicken, So how committed are you to this? And if you are, then get someone to help you. But I mean, even just sitting down and making sure you're committing some time every week or every day to put into the creation of your book, the marketing of your book. I mean, this is my book. I wrote this back in 2014. And it's here, and I'm not far off updating it because there's some stuff in here that's not quite right, and I want to update it so I can use it more for my business. But that has been promoted and promoted and promoted over and over and over again, and only just this year was a finalist in the Book Excellence Awards. So even though you've got something that you might have created ages ago, you should keep leveraging it, reusing it, repurposing it. I should be turning that into a podcast. There's definitely an audio book there. So you can be using it for blogging. You can be using it for videos, for live streaming, for interviewing people. You could be asking them the questions that's in your book. There's so much you can be doing to leverage your book, but you just need to commit the time. You need to make sure that once a week I'm promoting my book. Just as simple as that. Map out Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. till 11 a.m. That's my book marketing time. And I'm going to go and talk about it or put up a review or a testimonial. I'm going to interview someone who's read my book, whatever it is. Figure out what you're going to do and make sure you stick to it.
Whew. Lauren, you're preaching today. I feel like I need to hold the microphone in my hand and like pat my head with a cloth or something. You're really getting onto it. I love what you're saying, because it is absolutely the truth. Like, yeah. You have to do that.
It kills me, Jeremy, to see amazing authors with their incredible books. And I say to them, what are you doing to promote? Oh, I wrote it 5 years ago. I don't think I like, it's like, there is no such thing as perfect. I know this book is not perfect. There's stuff in here I want to change, but is that going to stop me from promoting it? No way. Right. So, you've just get over yourself and realize that unless you are talking about it, unless you are doing your own self-promotion, no one else is going to do it for you. So, unless you're a celebrity who gets, lots and lots of media attention, you have to create that yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading a book. My dad loves this outdoor humor author. His name's Patrick F. McManus, and he wrote for Field and Stream in North America for years. And I have all of his books. I absolutely love them. But I was reading one of his newest books about 10 years ago, and on the third page was a spelling error. I mean, this guy sold millions of books. Like, he's made his living writing. And there's an error in his book. If he's going to make an error, if Stephen King's going to have an error in one of his books, then just write your freaking book and don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Stephen King is absolutely phenomenal in his productivity. I can imagine how many books he's written. But yeah, but it comes back, doesn't it, to Jeremy, is what's the purpose? If you're
Yes.
expecting to make, I want to be a millionaire based on my book sales, then there's a completely different path for you.
Yes.
If it's, I want to be the leader in my space, I want to be the keynote speaker at conferences and so on, and I'm going to leverage my book to get there, that's a totally different marketing plan.
Absolutely.
If it's, this is my lead gen, and I want to, my book is my business card, and I want to get people in and be a well-paid consultant, again, completely different marketing plan. So figure out your purpose for your book, and then the steps to market it just become more instinctive that way.
Yeah. So this podcast has turned into basically a discussion on purpose for your book, which I absolutely love. And so I'm a really big proponent of when something goes a direction, you just go that way. So I want you to walk us through, quickly or not quickly, it doesn't matter. How did you decide what the purpose of your book was going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely approached it as a personal branding exercise. So my whole focus was, look, a little bit like you said before, if I can do it, then I can help my clients to do it.
Yes.
So I did it as an exercise to say, right, I need to become a best-selling authority in my field in order to be respected, to be a well-paid consultant. I'm also a keynote speaker, so I needed it to leverage me up and so on. So to be able to walk on stage as a best-selling author, and now an international award-winning best-selling author, so it just keeps growing and growing. But also to be able to say to people, I did this and I'm dyslexic, and it took me 4 years to create my brand. So if I can do that, you can do that. And here's my process. Here's my way of growing your personal brand. And if you visit my website or you find anything about me, you'll see in there, personal branding is just one of the things I do. We also do publicity and getting into the media. We also do best-selling authority. We also do online presence. We do all these different things that you have to do if you want to be the go-to leader in your field. And one of those things is to become a best-selling author, just one. So if I can lead by example and show people, look, this is what I did, this is the process, and here's how I wrote my book and constructed it, but here's how I marketed it, and here's how I'm still leveraging it, 6 to 10 years after I wrote it. I'm not going back and rewriting it yet, but I'm still marketing it, So it is around that whole idea, Jeremy, of where do I see myself in 3 years' time? What do I want to be known as? And what I always look at the 3 R's of personal branding. The 3 R's are recognition. So what do I want to be recognized as? The second R is reputation. What reputation do I want in the marketplace? So who are my key opinion leaders? Who are the people that I want saying, you need to go and read Lauren's book? And then the last one is respect. What do I want to be respected for? Best-selling author, international award-winning neurobranding expert, personal branding specialist. So getting really clear, again, it comes back to purpose, Jeremy. Not only your purpose for your book, but your purpose for your life. Yeah. Who do I want to be influencing? Who do I want to create an impact for? Who is my tribe? And what are those 3 R's? How can I build that into my branding? And where does that fit in with my book? Or where does my book fit into that whole strategy of doing that?
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. We one of the guys that I know very well and is in healthcare big time here in the States is his name's Jerry Durham, and he talks about patient experience. And we're talking about his new podcast, and he says, should I put my face on it? And I actually voted no because I like the other copy. But everybody else is like, yes, you do. And it makes sense because they're like, you are your brand. Like everybody knows you. They know what you stand for, and they respect you for that. So recognition, reputation, and respect. I absolutely love that.
Absolutely. And it's funny, my first copy of my book that came out didn't have me on the cover. In fact, it didn't even have my name on the cover. My name was on the back of the book. So that just tells you a little bit about, my whole self-confidence thing. Now It's got me front and center, but my next book that I'm writing won't have me on the cover because I've now grown my personal brand to a point where people recognize me. So that's the thing. You've got to level up each time. But yeah, you're right, Jeremy. You've got to start somewhere. If you're writing this book to stand out as a leader in your field, you need to have your photo on your, certainly if it's not on the front cover, it needs to be on the back. You need to have a really good headshot on the back so that people see you and they know you. It's absolutely vital.
Yeah. Wow. Lauren, you have given us a ton of stuff, and this might should have been 53 podcasts with the knowledge that you have. So I want to thank you, and I don't want to take up any more of your precious time. But where can someone go to find out more about you, get involved with you, and possibly hire you as a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. So the interesting thing is you can actually go to a website called theaudaciousagency.com, which is my business partner and myself formed that a couple of years ago. She's a journalist and a stand-up comedian, and I'm a personal branding expert, and I do all sorts of crazy things like race sailing and throwing myself out of a perfectly good aeroplane. So we work really well together. And our whole thing is self-promotion. How do we help you become that self-promoting leader in your field? One of our biggest mission statements, I guess, Jeremy, is, there's no place in business for modesty. You absolutely have to stand out and tell your story and be seen and be known. So the big thing with being an author and launching your book as a business owner is all about knowing that you have the most amazing skills and talents that the world needs, and they need it more than ever. You've just got to get out there because you deserve it. You've worked hard for this. You need to get out there and be well-known, well-paid, and wanted for what you do. And a book is a really, really awesome way to leverage yourself to get right in front of that audience that you need to be in front of and impacting way more people. So theaudaciousagency.com. And we also have a really awesome Facebook group, very, very active. It's got a couple of thousand global entrepreneurs in there, and we're always in there helping each other out. It's called Rocket Launch Your Business. So if you go to Facebook and just type in Rocket Launch Your Business, you'll find our Facebook group there. Jump in, introduce yourself, and meet up with everybody else. There's some amazing people in that group as well.
Absolutely. I love that. Lauren, thank you so much.
It's been awesome, Jeremy. Thank you for having me on the show. And what you're doing is amazing. I think it's such a positive show. And I think it's that real case, like you said, of, look, if Jeremy can do it, if Lauren can do it, then so can I. Nothing is stopping you.
100% agree. There's no reason why anyone can't write a book, grow their brand, and use it to serve more people.
Definitely. Love it.